We're ready? Let's start.
All right.
Welcome back to the second edition of Porchtalk podcast. For those of you who enjoyed our first one, thanks for coming back for this one. Once again, shout out to Agenda 31, No Agenda, and Jennifer Briney for being our inspiration and wealth of resources. My name is Samuel Dank, sometimes called Sammy, sometimes called Little. I don't really give a crap what you call me, as long as you don't call me late for supper. Zing!
Wow. All right. and I'm Jared. Just Jared.
Just Jared.
J_Frederick Hall at the Twitter. And you're kind of a douchebag as you left out Todd McGreevy and Corey Ibe at Agenda 31.
I just said Agenda 31.
Oh, I thought you said
No Agenda.
Oh.
And Jennifer Briney.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
Somebody doesn't listen. Jared, how can
attention.
we have a conversation
we're gonna have
when
a
you're not
conversation
listening?
now. Yeah, well, I'm surprised that you
sound
haven't
just
figured
like
out
my
yet
wife.
that we haven't been having conversations. We've been having one-sided talks.
We've been having one-sided talks? Yes, Jared's been lecturing me.
Yeah, I have been lecturing you. I have been.
So, Jared... Oh, yeah, good idea. Let's have a smoke. Jared's, as usual, he is the Corey to my Todd. Jared has... he's the Adam Curry to my Dvorak. For sure. Jared's been poking around in the laws, in the statutes. What is it?
Yeah, okay, so this started because I was finding people's Facebook posts in Nebraska talking about how, regardless of, if Hillary wins the Democratic nomination for president, which I'm sure she will, that people should just write in Bernie Sanders. And, I knew that there were some complications that might arise from that. People had already said that there might be problems with Trump if he were to be just a write-in candidate or even a third-party candidate after having ran as a Republican.
Yeah, I heard some of these things too. Sort of, there are laws on the books in some states. I don't know which states.
45 states.
45 states that prevent a candidate from being a write-in. No. Prevent from being a third-party candidate in the general election if they lose in the primary. Is that?
Yeah. So if
they called? They're called sore losers.
Sore loser laws. So how this works is
Explain.
if you are explain.
Mansplain.
So I can manspread too since you are. And, gosh, now my free space. So how this works is that if you are a party candidate in the primary election in your state. And you don't win the nomination, then you cannot be a third-party nominee or a write-in candidate in the general election. Now, I wasn't sure.
That right there sounds kind of unconstitutional. I don't know. Maybe not unconstitutional. It just sounds wrong.
I get it.
I don't.
I get the point. Like, you couldn't even win as your party. So what makes you think, and you're a party, we are two parties.
Yeah, but why outlaw? Who gives a fuck? Write whoever you want. I can write Mickey Mouse.
Because it costs money for the state and everything to do all this crap, and taxpayer money
Well,
to get a name on the ballot. But to the point,
that's fair.
to the point of what got me digging is
like the primaries cost taxpayer money.
Yeah, like why did we have Democratic primaries when we had all of our delegates allocated during a caucus? Especially when Hillary Clinton won the primary, but she gets jack shit for it. Yeah, just case in point there.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was curious if it was just if you don't win just your state's primary, if you can't be a write-in, or if you don't win the national something or the national thing. I'm sure I guess that wouldn't make sense.
That wouldn't
more
make
I think
sense.
about it.
But you were.
But anyways,
you were thinking about
so
it,
I
trying to figure
started
it out.
digging around after making a Facebook post about this and trying to inform my Bernie Sanders friends that hey, you may want to do this, and you may want to look into this, and if you live in other states, you may want to look into their statutes. And so yeah, so what had happened is I had read. Sorry, I'm not prepared. I had read a statute.
Here, while you're looking, I wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
Is there a difference between me writing a candidate in and being a quote-unquote write-in candidate?
Yes. We can,
is that a technical term?
Yeah, and we will touch base on that.
Okay, good.
When we kind of dive into the bullshitness that is this law, I guess you want to say
Series.
The series of
because you found two laws and they
statutes.
Okay,
well, first off, let's hear. So what I had
together.
originally found was Nebraska Revised Statute 32-615, paragraph 4. Quote, a candidate who has been defeated as a candidate in the primary election or defeated as a write-in candidate in the primary election shall not be eligible as a write-in candidate for the same office in the general election. So here, and it just says if you've been defeated as a candidate in the primary election or as a write-in candidate in the primary.
Okay, so this would apply to any election cycle that has a primary.
Any election cycle that has a primary.
Okay.
This is not just the presidential election.
Right.
And later on in this statute, it does give you exceptions, such as if there's a vacancy on the ballot or if the candidate who's wanting to be a write-in that lost in the primary, under other statutes for different offices, right?
All right, so there's some technicalities.
So unless you were a candidate in an office described in it looks like a crap ton more statutes.
Okay.
As the result of a tie, and it was determined via another statute.
Okay.
It says in here that it does not include the office of the President of the United States. What I mean by that is that the exception was listed, so unless you're running for these offices and you lose by A, B, C, D, or whatever it is, those are the only people, the only offices that are allowed to be a write-in then, if you've lost.
And President is one of those.
President is not one of them. Therefore, I was under the understanding that you can't run as a write-in candidate if you lost the primary.
Okay.
So how I would take this then, the Bernie Sanders thing is not a good example. He won Nebraska's caucus. He has the delegates here.
Okay,
but
let's just
Hillary
say
Clinton,
let's say he didn't.
Yeah, or let's say more than likely Hillary Clinton is going to be the Democratic nominee.
Yeah, all right.
And let's say, for this argument, that Bernie Sanders did not win the Nebraska caucus.
Okay.
According to the statute that I listed, since the office of president was not listed as an applicable office that would qualify, he would not be able to run as a write-in candidate.
In Nebraska.
In Nebraska. I don't know about other states.
So now that maybe this is a good time to talk about what a write-in candidate is, because I guess I always just thought was, hey, write me in.
Yeah. Okay, and that's not how it works.
Okay.
It's really not how it works at all, and it's weird and it's problematic. It's really stupid what they are. For example, if you want to talk about what a write-in candidate is for a president,
Yeah.
okay, well, we can scroll back down to some more statutes here, okay?
This is Jared's favorite hobby.
Write-in candidate requirements.
Okay.
Statute 32-615. Write-in candidate requirements, except as otherwise provided in subsection 2 of the section, any candidate engaged in or pursuing a write-in campaign shall file a notarized affidavit of his or her intent together with the receipt for any filing fee with the filing officer as provided in yada yada yada. So right there, you can't just be a write-in candidate.
So you can't just campaign to have people write you in.
You have to file an affidavit to be put on the ballot.
Okay.
It comes down also that says
As a write-in, as opposed to a member of a party. Ooh, excuse me.
yeah.
Okay, we got it.
So that's what the write-in thing is. So since
it's
I was
a technical thing. All right, I got it.
it is.
That
It's
makes
a
sense.
dumb
Yeah.
technical thing. So I decided to be.
Well,
a smart
kinda.
ass.
I mean,
Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, it is dumb. It is dumb because if somebody wants to launch a campaign and say, hey, fuck the parties, fuck all of this legalese and all this stuff, vote for me, and here's why, and he's got money, and he runs ads and campaigns in their state. Let's say this is a state thing. Maybe it wouldn't work so well for presidential, well, but you could do it if you had the money to travel around and purchase ads. Why shouldn't people be able to write that person in? You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be a infringing on one's right to free speech?
Are you asking me? You think that?
Yeah. So that's great. We have a statute that says no. In order to be a write-in candidate and campaign, you have to do this. But I just simply would say no. I have free speech.
Yeah, but if you want to run, you have to be put on the ballot, and so in order to be put on the ballot, even as a
not all. Do you see what I'm asking? If somebody could literally write my first name, my middle name, and my last name,
the problem here
would it not be counted, or
you have to explicitly or tacitly agree to it.
I got on the TV and I told everybody.
Yeah, that would probably work.
Okay.
Because you've made
you've explicitly
said that you would be fine with this.
Okay.
The problem is if somebody just wrote down Joe Schmo, and it was a joke, and everybody wrote down Joe Schmo,
right.
And then Joe Schmo gets elected, and he's like, well, what?
There is no Joe Schmo.
Or there is a Joe Schmo, and he says, if I wrote down Sam Dane, 100 other people wrote down Sam Dane, in that one.
Okay.
But you're like, but what?
I guess I could see the idea of filing an affidavit.
It's just
simply so
know
like,
that
your name. It's your name, and so when they get all these people voting for me, because obviously they will.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would. I have.
It's good. Yeah.
But yeah. So it lets the state know that when they're going through and counting the ballots, that they don't just need to ignore this name. They're made aware of the fact that this person is actually okay with the fact that he may be getting votes.
Okay, all right.
It also allows it to be, after some fixing of it, that people may not know how to spell Samuel Dane.
Fair enough.
So
yeah.
they write Sam Dane.
Right. That
or they
vote
misspell your
should
name.
Go to that person.
Yeah, or they misspell your name.
Okay, I get it.
If the name spelling is somewhat similar, then they can at least be like, yeah, okay, that's gonna.
And then if it's contested, then you can get,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's I get it. I'm good with the write-in candidate thing.
So,
it makes sense to me.
So I decided to be a smartass though when I was questioning whether or not was it just a state, how does this work, and so I wrote to the Secretary of State here, and I had said basically just to whom it may concern. If a presidential candidate wins the Nebraska primary but does not win the party nomination, is he allowed to be a write-in candidate, or does statute 32-615 apply to him?
Right.
And I cited an example of Bernie Sanders doesn't get the Democratic nomination. Can't he be a write-in? And
because he didn't win the national primary, but he won Nebraska's primary.
Yeah. Well, we won our caucus.
Or the caucus.
But again, there's another funny thing, is that you have caucuses and not a primaries, and the statutes say primaries and it's a caucus you have. Does it count?
No, well, Nebraska's a Republican state, so no, it doesn't count.
But the response I got back kind of pissed me off.
Okay.
And she responded really fast to me, this lady at the Secretary of State's office, and it was basically, presidential candidates are not considered candidates, parentheses, or quotes, under the election statute and are treated a little different. Technically, yes, he could run as a write-in at the general election. I'm not sure this has ever happened, and it's very unlikely that it would occur. So, okay, that's not really an answer.
Okay, they're not candidates.
They are candidates, yeah. They aren't the candidates. So I did a little digging, and I came across a gentleman who in 1980, he's from Illinois, his name is John B. Anderson.
Okay.
And he was a Republican primary nominee. His campaign got off to a horrible start. Just nothing was happening for him. And he lost the Nebraska primary.
Okay. This is a Nebraska.
Which parties?
This is
the presidential election in 1980.
Okay.
Uh,
Lost our primary.
Lost up in 79, really, I guess it would be.
Okay.
Right? So 79, the 79-80 election cycle.
Yeah.
And so he lost the primary. Some point after this, he decided, after the primaries were decided, he decided to switch to an independent.
Okay.
And he was on the ballot, not as a write-in, but as an independent in Nebraska. So I responded back to the same lady who was from the state, from the Secretary of State, kind of being a smartass,
Pointing out.
saying that after doing some more research, I came across John B. Anderson, and I gave a link to the whole thing,
Okay.
specifically where it says, "This is what he switched."
And he was allowed to.
And he was allowed
on
to
the ballot
he
in
was on the
Nebraska.
ballot.
Yeah.
So I said, Nebraska proved your previous reply to me to be true when John Anderson ran as a Republican for president in 1980, lost the Nebraska primary, then ran as an independent. Now I get snarky and said the state ignored their own statute, then apparently declared an exemption to presidential candidates. And then, because this is what I do, I said,
Oh,
could
no.
you provide me with all statutes and instances in state law that refer to requirements for a candidate to run for office of President of the United States? If need be, I can file the appropriate public records request, but if you'd like to skip that step, you can mail them to me at yada yada yada. So yesterday she responds to me. Here's a link to the revised statutes, which I had already. I
Right.
wanted her to do her job.
You're the one that reads them.
Yeah, and I wanted her to do her job.
Ah.
And she goes, there are several statutes that refer to presidential candidates. You can find them between statutes 32.613 and 32.715. This is the kicker part. If you hit Control F, it will bring up a search menu, and you can search the word president. Because apparently I don't know how to run a computer.
I just love it.
And then she gave me... This is... yeah. Yeah.
That's such a great bureaucrat response.
Yeah.
Here's
how to do it.
Here, you've asked me to do my job. I'm going to show you how to do my job yourself.
Yeah. And then she says, I also want to direct you to Statute 32104, which defines the word candidate.
Oh, okay. Okay, so she did that.
For the purpose of Nebraska statute, when using the term candidate, that was also in quotations, it does not include presidential candidates.
Wait, what?
So just in her sentence there, she has already said that candidates do not include presidential candidates. So 32104 says that a candidate shall mean a registered voter for whom votes may be cast at any election, who either tacitly or expressly consents to be considered. Which is why you have to be a write-in candidate. You have to give your
tacitly or
consent.
expressly. Okay.
Candidate shall not include a candidate for president or vice president of the United States.
So what do you call them then?
Well,
Does it give an alternative?
Because this is candidate defined. This is the
That's
statute
literally the fucking
defining
definition of candidate. And it's referring to a candidate for the president or vice president of the United States as not being a candidate, even though they refer to him as a candidate.
Yeah.
Oh, God, kill me now. Seriously. How?
Yeah. So,
All right.
so I'm confused by this.
Have you progressed any further than this?
I have. Now keep in mind, this is statute 32104.
Okay. 104. Okay. that's
104.
important. All right, 104.
Okay? So if you come down 500 some places to 613, 32613.
So would this be later, chronologically?
Oh yeah, by 500. By
Okay.
500 statutes.
Okay.
Give or take. Probably give, actually, because they don't, fill up the 500s or whatever.
All right.
But, so 613. 613 is titled President, Nominating Petition, Consent of Candidate Required, Form of Petition. Any petition to place a person's name on the primary election ballot for President of the United States shall contain the names of not less than 100 voters registered with the appropriate political party from each congressional district, yada yada yada. Okay, it keeps going down,
So how to get on the ballot. This is how to get on the ballot, basically?
Yes.
Okay.
The name of the candidate for president shall be placed upon the ballot only when written consent of such person has been filed with the Secretary of State, not less than 60 days before the primary election.
Wait, they referred to him as a candidate.
Again, 500 things later, 32-614. President, petition candidates or advocates or advocated or recognized candidates placing on ballot affidavit of rejection of candidacy, purge candidate win.
They keep using that word.
They keep using a word that apparently, for what he told me, does not mean a presidential nominee. Right? Write-in candidates. Also, all these rules on how to be a write-in candidate.
But it's not a candidate according to 109, right? Statute 109?
104. 32104.
32104.
32104 says
Which
that you
defines candidate and then says the candidates that are presidential candidates are not candidates according to this definition of candidate.
Yes. Now we skip down to 32-620. President and vice president candidates.
It's again. Okay.
Certification, new political party, how treated, requirements, nonpartisan status, filing, application, contents.
Okay.
Partisan candidates for the offices of president and vice president of the United States in the general election ballot shall be certified to the governor and secretary of state by the National Nominating Convention as provided by law. Wait, what? Candidates again. We're back to being candidates again.
I'm so fucking good. Now the only thing that okay, word games aside, although this is not a fucking game if it means that somebody can't be a write-in candidate. So this is like a for real problem. But let's push the problem aside, and I have a question. Is this because this is a national thing? And that's why they're not considered candidates according to the state? Because it's a union of the several states that's voting on this candidate, so they don't qualify as the same?
No.
That's the only way I could possibly see that they're using the term candidate in this circumstance under 104 because it's specifically candidates in Nebraska.
But under same statute, chapter 32 is about elections. Just elections in general. And in 32-104, which is one of the very first ones, they don't start 34-001.
Right.
They start 34, in the 32-100.
100, and then 104, so it's the fourth one.
It's the fourth one listed that's defined what candidate means.
But it's... Yeah, but they're specifically...
Anything after that should be...
should not be using the word candidate.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
This is
Regardless
the
of...
problem with it.
Okay, that's fine. If they want to define... If they want to separate Nebraska state candidates from a federal...
Nominee.
Well, call them a nominee then, right?
Here's the thing. Yeah, because the senators, House of Representatives, all congressmen, your sheriffs, your governors,
Yeah.
lieutenant governors, your
They're all candidates
NRD,
when they're running.
Anything is a candidate.
Right. But those are all local. State. They're all state level or local level.
Even
right?
if it does end up being the federal executive branch, such as our congressmen, yes.
That's a legislative branch.
Yeah, sorry.
But our congressmen aren't voted on by other states.
No.
They're only voted on by us.
Exactly.
Whereas the executive branch is the only, as far as I can tell, it's the only thing that's voted on by all the several states.
Yes.
So in that sense, it's not a candidate according to Nebraska. Now, okay.
Then don't call them candidates.
Don't fucking define candidate and then say they're not candidates, and then call them candidates in all of your following statutes.
Exactly. This is exactly what I'm getting to. Now we're gonna backtrack just a little bit, and we're gonna go to the write-in thing.
Okay.
President, write-in campaign. 632, 633. Any person engaged in or pursuing a write-in campaign for the office of President of the United States shall file with the Secretary of State a notarized affidavit of his or her intent, together with an application containing the name of the person pursuing the write-in campaign. So if you're Bernie Sanders' campaign team here in Nebraska, and you happen to have lost the primary, which did not happen, hypothetically, then you can't just push everybody to just write him in. You have to get the Secretary of State a notarized form with a bunch of information saying this is what he's doing. He's pushing to be now just a write-in candidate. Okay? And you also have to get his consent, his written consent. So you can't just be like, here it is.
So we can't just sort of band together and say, we want Bernie! And
yeah. You also need to have the vice president's written consent as well. So you have to get his running mate.
So it was his running mate.
So this, in a really long way, this took me down a rabbit hole for nothing when it dealt with my original question about could Bernie Sanders be a write-in?
Right, because he can't.
He can't be. But it got me really pissed off because if you're going to define candidate by calling them not a candidate and referring to them as a candidate, like you were just saying, then I'm kind of under the impression that if I wanted to be a dick and challenge any election for president in the state, I probably could, just based upon their own language that they use as law, and every statute after them defining that it shall not include the president by referring to the president as a candidate.
Yeah. I don't know
words
how...
matter. Words matter.
Words matter.
Legalese, very important.
Especially in trials.
Dot your I's, cross your T's, minus your P's and Q's.
That's why we have esquires representing us. Because they know that shit.
And this is how people get off on technicalities. So it's a dick move if I wanted to do this.
Right.
And
neither of us have the money.
And it is a technicality. But I really think if somebody wanted to, oh my god, the Koch brothers wanted to, they could do this shit.
They could challenge Trump. The Koch brothers don't want Trump.
There's a perfect example, okay? So I could sit here and say that because the Republicans had an actual primary to allocate their delegates, maybe people should do this, by the way, if you don't like Trump and you live in Nebraska, and possibly other states if you look up your statutes in those states. But Trump won the Republican nomination in Nebraska.
Right.
As a presidential
candidate.
But there's no such thing as a presidential candidate in Nebraska because candidate doesn't mean presidential nominee. Sorry, because candidate doesn't mean presidential candidate. Even in their first thing that tells you what it is, they just needed to replace the second candidate with it doesn't mean presidential nominees.
Right. That's
Fix the whole mess.
Mm-hmm.
Their whole statute is bullshit and fucked up. And really, if the Koch brothers wanted to be dicks, they could sit here and say, hey, but what about this?
And they could hang the whole frickin' thing up in legal trials.
And not only in this legal trials,
and we've done this shit. Not to this extent, but Gore and Bush.
Gore Bush in Florida.
You know?
And hating Chads. And
that was...
or this could...
And if anybody thinks that Gore would have
Nebraska
fucked up our country any
Trump
less
only
than
got
Bush.
33? 30-something delegates here.
Do we really have 33?
But imagine if Nebraska were a state like New York or Texas or California, population-wise.
Yeah.
And that's a shit ton of delegates.
Yeah.
That I could technically take away from Trump. Nobody else would get them under the same argument that I'm bringing forth here.
Right, because they don't.
But I took the delegate count away in theory, costing him an outright convention. Just bypass, convention, and now he would actually have. They would have. This could cause a split convention or what, a contested convention.
Interesting.
Even if he flat out won the delegates, or in this case,
and there's nobody fighting him.
Yeah.
Just because there isn't, right?
Yeah. So imagine if all 50 states had this same type of a statute.
Please, someone do this. Not because I'm so much against Trump. I don't really care. I just think this would be entertaining as hell.
Somebody with money,
Yes.
or the time,
Koch brothers.
or the Koch
Come
brothers.
on, Koch brothers.
I get
Bush, George. What's
How about the
George's brother's name?
ACLU that really
Yeah.
hate Trump?
Yeah.
Or any
Southern
group.
Poverty Center, or what's
In
what are they
any
called?
group
Yeah.
who would do this, who would have the means to do this, should do this.
I think so.
Now,
I mean, it's worth
I'm
a
not a
try.
lawyer.
Anyway. I don't know. Maybe they look at the legal ease and they go, yeah, this candidate, schmandidate.
Yeah, but under the law, you can't say, well, it clearly means this, when later on you say that this is
It
this.
clearly means
when
that.
you use
Yeah.
a word
Right.
to define it, when you define a word, you don't use what it's not to define it. I mean, you don't.
That's orthodox theology right
You
there.
don't
That's
do that.
Apophatic legalese.
Yeah, but yeah,
You can't do that.
you just
Doesn't
you
work.
can't.
That's the Roman Catholic Church. They do that shit.
When you have
Not-
when you have all sorts of other words that you could refer to somebody as, and you're saying that they're not a candidate, don't refer to them as a candidate.
Right. Yeah.
I know I'm harping on it. I'm gonna harp on it because it matters. Because words matter. You can sit here and have this argument over and over again. I'm just gonna sit here and tell you the same thing over and over again. I'm gonna be a broken record here and bitch and moan because I can seriously say that whenever the statute was put into place, I think you could go back to any election since that statute and make the same case.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. Somebody was illegally elected
Right.
in Nebraska. So, and we'll go, because we were counting about primaries. So here we are. So, all of your votes in Nebraska don't matter, in my opinion, because you're voting for a presidential candidate. They're referred to as presidential candidates in statute,
Mm-hmm.
and you're not allowed to vote for a presidential candidate because there is no presidential candidate.
What does it say on the ballot?
That's a good question.
You have a photograph of it.
I do have a photograph.
You pull it up. Which is
Let's
funny.
see.
Which is funny. I'm not going to tell. I'm not telling who Jared voted for.
I voted for Bernie Sanders.
Why did you vote for Bernie Sanders?
I voted for Bernie Sanders because it doesn't. This is for presidential ticket. Vote for president of the United States. That's all it says. It doesn't say.
So the elections themselves are not
The ballots themselves do not refer them as
candidates.
candidates. At least not the picture. I mean, I only have a picture of the presidential ticket and the congressional ticket.
Okay.
I don't have all of it above that may say anything else. But I voted for Bernie Sanders because I had told my wife that and this is part of it. She's a Bernie Sanders supporter. Yay for her. And she was kind of the inspiration behind this, along with some other people that were referring to write-in candidacies for Bernie Sanders. And she was asking me on my own Facebook post about this, like, what it would mean. Like, oh, so I can vote for him. Oh, so I can vote for him. And so
Right.
I got home, and it was election day on Tuesday, and so I went to go vote.
There's some primaries.
Primary day
Yeah.
on Tuesday, state primary. And she didn't want to go. She wasn't really informed, and there's nothing really here in our district that we were voting for. I think we were voting for State Board of Education.
Right.
Democrats had Congressional House district vote up, and then president, and we had a storm bond issue. So I looked up some stuff. I figured it out. And no idea that president was going to be on there.
Oh.
So I get there. I take my two kids there. Wife stays
And
home
you're
with the
a
baby.
registered Democrat.
I'm a registered Democrat because I'm too lazy to. So here's my experience.
Right. So
I
go ahead.
Wife stays home with her baby. She decided, since she didn't know anything, that she wasn't going to vote, which I think is a very responsible move. If you don't know, don't go vote. My opinion. Also, because
I like
if
that.
you do go vote, that's why we have super delegates, and that's why we have
Electoral college.
an electoral college. It's
Right.
because people were
Stupid.
thought to have been too stupid to make their own decisions. So in my opinion, if you have no idea what you're doing and you go and you just cross out all the D's or all the R's or just willy-nilly, that's the reason why
I
we
put
have
connect
this.
the dots.
Yeah, or all C's, right? That's how you pass.
All C's, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you draw a design somehow.
Yeah, that's how I draw designs. Yeah.
So I took my two boys there.
Oh,
'cause
he
I
has
think
a
it's
nice name. I'll vote for him.
Yeah. Oh, this name's looks familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, that
So I took
name
my-
looks familiar.
So I took my two boys there because I think it's important for them to at least.
Civic education.
Yeah, even if I don't necessarily agree with the whole idea of voting, that's a whole thing for another topic and conversation another time. But so I took my boys.
I
to go
really,
vote.
we need to fucking bookmark this.
We'll come
I want
back.
to come back to
We'll
that.
we'll come back to the voting thing.
Are you a monarchist?
No, I don't have any officials that are anybody running for office in the state in which I domicile. And so I take my kids there, and just right across the street. So we just walked over there.
Yeah, yeah.
There's two precincts to vote in my polling place. Two poorest neighborhoods in the city.
Right.
I was number 114. I went at 6 o'clock. That kind of tells you anything. Yeah, that kind of tells you about anything.
So there were 113 voters before you,
Since polling open.
and I'm gonna guess that the population in your area is more than 150.
Yeah, in my precinct. Yeah.
Your precinct, yeah.
Um.
But maybe they're uneducated voters, so it's a good thing.
Well, and I'm.
Right? I stayed home.
We've got a lot of immigrants here that
That
can't
just
vote, and
aren't educated at this point,
No, like,
or
they're
they
not-
literally can't vote.
they cannot legally vote.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that makes sense.
I'm sure I have some felons in this area that can't vote either. Again, poorest neighborhood,
Yeah.
two poorest precincts
Usually
in
crime
the
rates.
city.
Yes.
So I take my kids there. We go vote.
Uh,
Their godmothers always volunteers at the precinct, so it's always nice to just kind of chat with her for a little bit, which is a little funny. It's like, hey, how you doing? My kid's godmother, and yeah. But it's always nice. And then, so I get my ballot. We go sit down at the table, explaining to the kids what it is. And I get down and go, what the fuck is this?
I thought we already had a caucus.
Yeah, like why is the Democratic primary on here? And then since I skipped it and I voted for the other stuff I wanted to vote for, I sat here for a while looking at it going, I could tell my wife to come here, and she's not going to, not at this point. Or I could just go ahead and be nice and vote for Bernie Sanders
For
her.
Okay.
Because I wasn't going to vote one way or the other.
Right,
I already knew.
You said that. Yeah.
Well,
You'd stand in the middle of
and
the
it
caucus. Yeah.
I would stand in the
Yeah.
middle of the caucus. We've had a caucus. The delegates are already allocated. I could have left it blank, and everybody could have left it blank, and it wouldn't have mattered.
Why did they waste the ink?
So I voted for my wife so she can have a say.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Not that because it doesn't even matter. So then that brought me to the, why did we just waste taxpayer dollars by having everybody put on a ballot? It cost money to print. It cost money to format the ballot. It cost money to count those votes. It cost money to print the results of those votes in newspapers and print and TV stations, all this crap, for something that doesn't matter.
I'm so confused.
And there's rules to get onto a ballot, which means candidates have to spend money to get onto the ballot. They have to get petitions on the ballot. You wasted everybody's time by being put on a ballot, but it doesn't matter.
Time and money.
Yeah.
That's fucking.
Yeah, so what? what the fuck is that?
Yeah, and again, we're talking about people wasting their money and time, taxpayers' money and time specifically. Let's not forget that the two-party system, as in Democrats and Republicans, and for that matter the other parties, but they don't count at this point, the two-party system is not constitutional. It is extra-constitutional. It is not even extra-constitutional. It's an overlay.
Yeah.
I will say that's great about this election cycle.
Yeah.
Is
people are realizing this.
Hopefully people are waking up to the fact that we're being fucked by the two parties.
Partisan elections is a result of people getting together. It's a result of society. Now the two-party system is a result of you're either with me or you're against me.
Uh-huh.
And the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Okay.
So, in this case,
the enemy of Hillary Clinton is Trump. Therefore, Trump is my friend.
Or in the primary, if you're a registered party affiliate, then it would be Bernie Sanders in this case.
Oh, right. Okay, I got it.
So, I mean, you've got two. And then you get to the general, then you've got two-party system that really controls everything. Because if you're an actual serious third-party candidate, you usually get shot or your family gets threatened. Or the media completely fucking ignores you.
Right.
Even if you do win straw man polls. And even if you are only 4 votes behind in an election.
Actually, the media will do that even if you're in a party, but you don't act like it.
Yeah.
A la
Bernie
Ron
Sanders.
Paul.
Ron Paul, Bernie Sanders.
Bernie Sanders, exactly. But we'll pay the unbelievable attention to Trump.
Yeah. And so going with the Trump thing,
Like-
one thing that people like to say, oh, he's just a joke candidate. Well, obviously he's stuck it out this far. He's not a joke.
No.
Even if he was a joke to start with, he's not anymore. Oh, he's just a Democratic plant to get people to end up voting for Hillary Clinton. And basically, like, sway the election.
I think he could have done a better job, though. Because a lot of people really like him.
Yeah.
They're not just... Does that make sense? I mean, for all the people that are going to defect from the Republican Party and vote for Clinton...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Seriously?
Well, no, because now people hate Trump, but people love Trump. Now you've splintered the party. So there's also that thing. You've splintered the GOP.
Yeah.
So if he does end up where he is now, or he is the GOP nominee... You've got enough people who don't want to vote for him because he's a douchebag.
I think they should vote for Hillary, personally. I think Hillary is the best Republican candidate out there.
Dean?
I do. I've been saying that for a while. If you look at Hillary's policies, you look at her, she looks like a fucking Republican.
Well, who's the better Democrat then? Bernie!
Clinton?
Oh, I was going to say Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump.
The Trumpsters sounds more like Bernie.
Yeah.
That's like the old joke.
Well, what's the difference
between a socialist and a Democrat, right? You know, nobody can tell.
Yeah.
Except when you look at the rulers of the Democratic Party.
Is that an actual joke, or was that just really like something that I had asked David once?
I think I can't remember.
Because I remember asking you that, and
you asked me, like, I hemmed and hawed about it, and I went. I think my answer was there isn't.
Yeah.
On paper. But here's what's
and it was
frustrating.
Today's Democrat and a socialist.
Yes, but here's what's frustrating.
Democrats.
I think most of the people that identify as Democrats are much more Bernie Sanders types. Much more liberal, bleeding heart, socialist.
See, I would say no,
right?
because this is why you've got your different factions within a party. You've got like blue blood Democrats, and you've got blue dog Democrats. Maybe it's blue dog Republicans. Either way, you've got your liberals and you have your progressives.
Okay,
and they're different. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, all right.
And you've got conservative Democrats. I mean, the parties themselves.
All right. Yeah. I suppose. I'm a millennial,
a Democrat in Nebraska.
My exposure to Democrats.
Yeah, a Democrat in Nebraska is not the same thing as a Democrat in California or New York.
Okay.
So when Trump says New York values,
right,
that means something to people in Nebraska, in the Midwest, in the Plain States, that means something to us because we're like, for the most part, we're fairly conservative.
Yeah, we don't share those values.
Yeah, and those values are like Wall Street values, where
Right.
you want to make money, and sure, we want to make money here too.
Yeah, but it's not.
But most of the stuff here is mom and pop shops.
Right.
You know what I mean?
We have a different and
It's just completely it's different.
interestingly, it's not. I think a lot of the social stuff gets conflated in there.
Yeah,
And
it's funny how mixed social issues have become and with political issues.
yeah,
Or how political social issues themselves
culture war
have come.
shit. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like even when I was
We were just on our last show. Distraction of the year was the bathroom issue.
yeah.
It's a fucking distraction.
Yeah.
This is it's a culture war. I think the culture wars are a fucking distraction.
Oh,
Just in general.
You remember how I described myself when I first
When we first met, you were a family values.
When we first remet.
Remet,
First-
yeah. We
first
go
exploring
way
orthodoxy.
back, but yeah. I meet Jared, and I think at the time I think I was really starting to delve into liberal progressivism
I don't
after
remember.
after being very conservative.
This conversation happened on July 4th
Yeah, I remember.
because I was just made a catechumen in the church.
Oh, that's
And
right.
You invited us over.
You guys came over to our place.
Yeah,
And we
for
lit
July.
off firecrackers and had whiskey.
And
Yeah.
and our buddy Pizzo was there.
Yeah,
asking
Tom.
us a bunch of questions.
And Tom at this point was hardcore libertarian.
Which is funny because I had met Tom beforehand,
Yeah.
a couple years beforehand, with my wife when we were at a friend's house and he was out there, and I remember hating him after our conversation on. We were having a conversation on faith, and I'm like, "You are super fundamentalist."
Right.
Like I swear he was a 6-day creationist. He still might be a 6-day creationist.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he is. Yeah.
But and like
I don't
this is
know.
just
I don't.
really
That's
weird.
not fair. I don't know.
And I wasn't really like
Tom and I have certainly had a lot of arguments about science.
yeah, but I just wasn't really
Scripture.
exposed to that at the time. So now here I am meeting him again at the same church. Now I'm wanting to go to, and he's quizzing me on all sorts of stuff. And I've been going to church for like 2 months.
Yeah.
After like a year of exploring all this on my
Yeah.
own, and he's asking me questions about abortion and gun control and things like
Yeah,
that.
because you identified as a family values concerned Democrat, right?
No,
Liberal?
liberal, family values concerned liberal.
Family values concerned liberal.
That was how I self-identified.
Right, and you were and still are a registered Democrat. I'm a registered Republican.
I've
by the way.
always been a registered Democrat.
I've been a registered
Actually,
Republican
take it back.
since
I was a
registered.
registered independent, and I was
Yeah.
really tired of not being able to vote in primaries.
Right. I understand that.
Until now, where the parties have opened them up, so I could have gone if I was an independent. I could have gone and asked for a Democratic ballot. Republicans did not open their primaries open.
Oh, interesting.
So because but that's a whole
Yeah, but
issue.
that's smart of the Republicans.
It is. It is.
I'm gonna
You know
go
what's-
out on a limb and say there's a lot
you
more
know what's-
sabotage.
You
that
know
can
what's
happen.
dumb about this though?
Uh.
Here's the one thing that I have issues with not having primaries in the same day, or
yeah,
having
we've talked about this.
is that I can go vote in the caucus that happened in March and then in May, re-register in that period of time as a Republican and go vote as a Republican. Like,
So, all it takes is a little bit of effort.
yeah, and that I'm pretty sure is illegal.
Is it?
You voted twice.
In 2 different elections.
Although in a caucus, they may take you as being there, but if I don't actually vote, because I would have stood in the middle, I would not have actually voted for anything. Not that it's a vote. I would not have caucused for anything, I guess. They don't count it. There's nothing there registering. I mean, they know that I checked in. But that's just, I could have just sat in the back.
So that's not illegal.
Yeah. But if we had 2 different primary dates,
Can you vote in 2 different primaries?
yeah, I don't know.
If you stop and think about it, it's 2 different elections.
That is.
And if you can register, why the fuck not?
Oh, something else to dig into.
Oh, now you gotta dig. Now, to be clear, Jared's gonna do the research. he's gonna bitch about it to me.
Yeah, I will.
But he's gonna do the research.
I am going to do all the research, and I'm going to have fun doing all the research.
So when I first met you, you were a registered Democrat. You family values concerned liberal, and I think I had started at that point to really kind of go very liberal.
Yeah.
After being very conservative, very Bush. I voted for Bush the second time, just so you guys understand how stupid I have been. And I voted for Obama the second time too. So I have a lot of penance to do. So I was really, and then Jared and I kind of, when we met, we were both coming from two different directions, and then our paths became parallel, and we both sort of started to question the culture wars. We started to from a religious point of view.
Initially,
We were kind of,
I was an Obama supporter. I remember calling Obama being the nominee, like, when the primaries first
my
started.
dad said that. Actually, my dad said that. My dad said he was going to be the next president when he gave that speech.
Yeah.
That's what the old man said.
I remember arguing with people. I'm like, there's no way it's going to be Hillary Clinton. I'm like, no, it's not. It's going to be Barack Obama.
Wow, that's a really good beer.
Yeah. Just people are sick and tired of this crap.
Yeah.
So I voted for Obama.
And clearly we're not sick and tired of it now.
I hated George Bush. I was
right.
I was so liberal.
Bright Eyes song. I remember you played me that Bright Eyes song.
Yeah,
when the president talks to God. That's a great song.
Yeah. and I don't recall exactly how I was so liberal. I just was.
Yeah.
And I was young in high school, finally allowed to vote, yada yada yada. But I end up voting for Obama, and then becoming orthodox and becoming friends with some people on Facebook that were more libertarian, and they're just kind of sharing this stuff. And it dawned on me that, like, nothing changed. Obama's elected.
Right.
He appoints people he said he wasn't going to appoint to his cabinet, to other high positions. I would imagine anybody that's listening to this would have to agree that at least the first 4 years of Obama were a complete letdown.
Yeah.
And the wars, closed Gitmo. What happened?
Still going.
Yeah.
Started some new ones too.
Yeah.
Thanks to Hillary too.
Yeah.
But,
so I was very
Secretary of State
disillusioned.
Yeah, I became very disillusioned by the time the second election came around. I voted for Obama, I think because it was at that point
First election.
Second.
Okay.
Second election comes around. I voted for Obama because he was running against Underwear Boy. You remember?
Mitt Romney.
Romney.
Yeah.
You know, who we classified as a pagan, I think, if I remember right, in some of our early conversations, because he's a Mormon.
Yeah. You don't
pretty
classify
funny.
Mormonism as Christianity based upon
the facts.
The tenets of Christianity. You say you have to at least adhere to these,
Right.
and you don't. So therefore, you're not a Christian.
So
another topic.
That was funny. I that was a really entertaining time. So I voted for Obama, and pretty much I was already heading out of the two-party system.
Yeah.
And the dichotomy between liberal and conservative, began to find out what progressivism actually was, as in the 20s, progressivism, and that was kind of where Jared and I kind of began to really dovetail, I think, politically, I would say.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, exactly.
You know, going in this direction where we both became very skeptical. Jared became more libertarian, I would say, than me. I still, and the reason why I'm not, there's a very simple reason why I'm not as libertarian as Jared, and why Jared is more libertarian than me. Although you don't consider yourself a full libertarian. The small L libertarian, right?
Yeah, big L would mean that I ascribe to the party.
Right. So, Jared beautifully believes
Please tell me what I believe.
in the goodness of humanity.
Well, at the same time, realizing the man sucks. I hate people.
Right,
I hate people.
But you still hope. That's why you don't want.
I'm still so fucking naive.
You're so fucking naive. That's why you really hope that we don't need feminism anymore, because we're past that, right? We want to progress beyond.
Because man is inherently good.
Yes.
Man has good.
Right. I don't. I'm a total cynic, and that's why I think. Oh, I'm clipping. That's why I think that we have to have at least some sort of oversight, common oversight, to prevent the
I'm going to stop you right there.
fucking of other people.
I'm just going to call you a statist.
Why a statist?
You want government. You want oversight.
Yeah.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Union of the several states type of statist?
Yeah, well, see, then
I'm good with that.
let's dive into that then. So as we are both becoming skeptics
Mm.
and realizing, during the second term that, holy crap,
This
there's
bullshit.
a lot of drone strikes.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that's a lot of interventions we're doing in some countries.
He's illegally killing American citizens.
Yeah.
This is not okay.
Holy crap. Syria and Ukraine and going, wait a minute.
He's just given a huge handout to insurance companies.
Yeah.
In the name of medicine. In the name of helping people. Wait a minute.
One other thing, being a Democrat, being a
Yeah.
liberal, I really have a hard time now with the liberal stance on some of the issues that I thought being a liberal kind of stood for when I
Yeah.
was liberal.
Right. You
and
don't
this
like
is only
Monsanto.
This is only like 10 years ago.
Right,
maybe.
right.
Not
This
even
is
10 years
just-
ago.
yeah.
Yeah, this is
You like
legit-
organic foods. Right? Yeah.
Locally produced, organic
Yeah,
preferably.
yeah,
Doesn't need to be organic, obviously. I don't want to buy organic from Italy. I'd much rather buy it from down the street.
Yeah, pregnant.
Or
Okay, yeah.
imported from Italy.
I got you.
But GMO foods. I mean, if you're a liberal, you didn't like GMO foods. Now GMO foods are good
Because science.
because science. And oh my God, we can get GMO rice in Africa and solve the problem. No, that's a temporary fix. And does anybody remember what happened when Nestle went in there with formula and gave them to all the kids or all the mothers there? What do you need for formula? You need water. Who the fuck in Africa had clean water?
Mm-hmm.
And now you have malnourished babies. When all you had to do was encourage the
But
mothers
Nestle
there,
sold a shit ton of formula.
and a lot of babies died.
And this is why one needs oversight from the state.
Yeah.
Ah!
So-
Zing!
Okay. So I hated GMO foods. I've always been. I was a lot more hardcore being against vaccination. Now
Right.
I'm at least be informed. If that's you going and looking up shit for like months, or reading the fucking pamphlets that are given to you, or consulting your doctor, and getting more than
Just
one
be
opinion. Be informed on something. Make an educated decision.
You believe in informed consent.
Yeah. Don't chop off your kid's fucking penis by having a circumcision just because you had one too. Like, oh, I had one. I made that mistake. Had no opinion on the matter, and I'm circumcised, and my oldest son can be too. How horrible! Just because you are doesn't mean that your child needs to be either.
Culturally acceptable
Yeah.
genital mutilation. It doesn't even have a religious overtone.
No, not for the religion that I ascribe to, especially when you realize that baptism is the new circumcision.
Right.
And when you go
Circumcise
back
your
and you
heart.
study the fact that we do circumcisions in a religious overtone, and even Jews don't do it to the extent that they did. Sorry, to what little extent that they did at the time, where it was literally snip, just the tip.
Yeah.
Now it's like you take off the whole fucking foreskin, and you're like, okay, not cool with that. Some other issues I was really against that. I can't remember some of the other ones, but now they're like the party switched directions. The liberal agenda switched directions, and now they're all like, yeah, totally, we need to have these things because science.
Huh.
No, wait a minute. Like, so the party, I think, also kind of left me a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
And when you realize that at some point, the family values aspect that I ascribe to is strictly a religious tone. When you look at, like, I'm very much pro-life.
Well, would you say your faith informs your pro-life, but wouldn't you would be pro-life even because you consider abortion just simply murder, right? And
I consider abortion to be murder.
Right, so it's a human life.
I also don't believe that you should condemn that baby to a sentence for the crime of the father in cases of rape or something. I've also known instances where ultrasounds and other tests, genetic testing, has been wrong. And so you make a decision here. And I just listened to, oh my god, a liberal podcast, not a,
Fun?
No. You're on the right train of thought there. What is it? It's I'll look it up. Sorry. Radiolab.
Oh yeah.
And they just had a story about a child that was born at 24 weeks, or just before 24 weeks, or right before, like it was like a day before viability, as it's defined by law, and they were asking a lawyer this terms and what viability means, and they're finding out, and they did like a story, like they tell you about it. It's a really great story, and the survival of this kid is amazing after being in the NICU for 6 months, sorry. And then they go 2 years later and they go interview the parents again.
Cool.
And they go back to the lawyer again.
Mm-hmm.
And like in that period of time, we found that viability can be 22 weeks, and that was just in 2 years. In 2 years, we've reduced the viability by 2 weeks. Imagine what happens in 10 years.
Science.
Because science and medicine.
Yeah.
What happens in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years? At some point, should you have an artificial womb, which says you can't abort the baby, we can remove it from the fetus and we can put it over there. You don't get to abort. You just don't get to be pregnant now.
No, you can abort.
Well,
The baby's not yours anymore then.
Yeah.
You just give.
and the baby can still live because now we have an artificial womb at some point.
That's interesting.
Or
I never
at
thought
some
about
point,
that.
maybe science will be able to do whatever and say, I'm sorry, but viability is now at 5 weeks. The minute you find out, science is able to keep that baby alive now.
Huh.
Through whatever. I mean, who knows?
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
And that was just the point. And it was
interesting
interesting,
what-ifs. Yeah.
and it was what if being posed by a very liberal podcast.
Right.
So, I mean, that was entertaining to hear. But, yeah. So, that's all part of why I kind of felt like I was being left behind by the Liberal Party. But a lot of it happened to be within Syria and Ukraine. And you and I were bitching and moaning about this. And in our men's group, the host of the men's group was really big into no agenda. And
he's a knight.
Yeah, he's the Sir Richard Leiter of the law libraries. Yeah, the law libraries. And I hadn't been going, but you came back one day and you're like, listen to this. It was right after. Was this right after MH17 was shot down?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, and so it's episode 646.
Was it? Okay.
I know this one because I had bitched you out on the porch. Porchtalk.
Porchtalk, yeah. We've been doing it for a while.
and then you're like, you need to listen to that. And I'm like, I just said that.
Yeah.
And that's what got me hooked on No Agenda.
Right.
And pretty much, it's the disillusionment with the two-party system is just another facet of that, realizing that everybody's kind of becoming disillusioned. So when it comes to Trump, for example, do people really like Trump, or do they just like the idea that he's going to break the two-party system?
Yeah.
Or Bernie Sanders? Do you really like Bernie Sanders? I'm sure there's people that are diehards for both.
Yeah.
But they're going. These are two people who are going to break the party system.
Oh, let's hope. Let's hope. I don't. Like I said, I would vote. I'll vote for Bernie because I think on a federal level, he's not going to get anything done.
Yeah. And there you are.
That's what I want.
People that don't like good do nothing Congresses.
I love doing. Well, now here's the deal. See, if you have a full Republican complement in your Congress,
Yeah.
and Hillary is elected, that is a recipe for only us to get fucked over, because they will continue all of the things we hate about the two-party system, while not doing the things we love about the individual parties.
Yes. This is why I really liked, again, that parliamentary voting system that we found on that
Right.
CGV video.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
It's interesting.
you take the votes in each precinct or area or state,
Yeah.
and then you move two people forward, and then you have a true representative. Because, again, Nebraska, did we really have, this far into the election cycle, did we really have a say
No.
in this?
No.
When people were dropping out left and right, do you have a say in who ends up being the nominee?
Dan Carlin pointed that out on one of his podcasts. He was basically saying, you get all the way down the road to these later primaries, and they don't get the choices.
Fuck, imagine how Hawaii feels. Every
Right.
general election, they're the last fucking state to come in.
You'd be like, what's the point?
Yeah, I'm not even gonna go and vote for that shit.
I'm gonna go surf.
Yeah. It's horrible, and this is how you get low voter turnout, and this is how you end up with
It is
29% of your registered voters going to vote.
That's your registered voters.
Yeah.
I didn't vote. I mean, I will vote in the election.
Yeah.
I will vote, and I will research my own congressman and the different things. But I didn't vote in the primary.
Mhm.
I didn't. I didn't because I had no passion about what was being voted on.
No, I did. Not so much for that. I mean, I looked up stuff. All that mattered for me, my state senator wasn't up for re-election, although I wish he was. That's again another whole story, whole other story. NRD was up, but not my area.
Right.
But state board was up for election. And NRD was up, and I was gonna vote for the Democrat because he's like, why are we wasting $7,000 per freaking Salt Creek tiger beetle when the job of the NRD is to protect the waterways
Correct.
and flood zones and stuff like that?
Correct.
And like, holy cow, a Democrat standing up for what his constitutionally defined powers
Yes.
are. Like,
Right.
wow, good job, Democrat. and then, so yeah, I was gonna vote for him, but he wasn't in my precinct, in my district.
Oh,
and then, state board was up. And I wasn't gonna vote for any of them because neither one of them, or there were 3 people, and none of them favored school vouchers or charter schools.
Right.
And I'm a huge supporter of school vouchers and charter schools.
Not just Tula
not just because I'm homeschooling. Because our kids are still, they have speech issues, so they're still
Right. So they're still in the
receiving-
system. Right.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
take them to school
Mhm.
once a week. We take our oldest once a week
Yeah.
for 30 minutes. But there, we had at-home visits from people from the school district.
That creeps me
But
out.
also, so I work with guys who send their kids to private schools. So they're paying twice for an education system?
Right.
Okay, well then what if you don't have kids? Should you still be paying for an education system? Yeah, okay, here's the socialism. It's here. Yes, because it's in the state constitution. Yeah. So I do favor government on a state level.
Yeah, I do too.
And it's directed there and how to do it, and yes, it's a public good. the state says it's here, and this is what we're going to do, and it's in the state constitution. It's even in the 1866 Constitution on how to deal with this. But if you're also going to send your child to school, at a private school, and pay for that, I think then that the city and the state should give you a rebate of some sort. Maybe not a lot, but something.
On the face of it, I would say yes. That sure, but obviously, what that ends up doing, if you run that down the line, what it ends up doing is all the poor people go to the public schools and all the rich kids.
Well, this is why you have vouchers.
Schools. No, that's exactly what happens. All of the vouchers take that money out of the public school.
Oh, yeah.
And put it into the private schools.
Well, then some vouchers you would say that you've got to meet some limit where you have to be under this level.
Yeah, maybe you could.
And there are a lot of private schools that give out scholarships. Don't get me wrong.
There are. Yeah, my wife is a recipient of one.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Guy
we were unofficial
recipients.
We went to Catholic school. Actually.
My kids are probably getting it for free, based on scholarship levels. And, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But just the idea
that might be a conversation for the next Porch Talk. I have a lot of thoughts on intellectualism and education and the American approach to education, just in general. But let's do that. Let's do that next Porch Talk, huh? Or the one after that, or the one after that.
The one after that, or yeah. All right. So
all right. Signing off from Nebraska, 1866. This is your host, Samuel Dank.
And Jared Hall.
Saying, what are we saying?
Greetings and salutation.
Yeah, fuck the government.